She'd be like, grab that, grab it. I said, grab it. And I was like, I don't know what you want me to grab. Like, I couldn't even, she wasn't even letting me speak before she just physically grabbed me and like pushed me over to the side. Another day in quarantine, another story time. That's right, I am back with another story. I don't know what it's like where you live right now, but LA is rainy and gray and cold. It's like the universe is like, stay inside. So I'm a little chilled today. I've got a long sleeve shirt on. It almost never happens in LA. And I'm here to tell you about the time a TSA agent made me cry. For those who don't know, a TSA agent is the person who stands at security in the airport and like lets people in and out. You know, you go through the metal detector or the body scanner and you put all your like shoes and your backpacks through. Those are TSA agents. I travel a lot, usually. Not right now. I haven't been traveling at all right now. I haven't been leaving my house at all right now. But in normal circumstances, I travel a ton, way more than most people. I've spent the last 8 years of my career being a very frequent flyer. I'm one of those people when I like show up to the Delta desk to check in, they're like, welcome. Thank you for being platinum. We fly a lot, okay? And like to give you an idea, at one point in my career, I did 8 airplanes in 10 days. So I'm used to airports. I'm pretty like flexible. I'm usually like, this is how it goes, get there, take my shoes off, take my laptop out of the bag, put it in a separate bin. Like I do all the things you're supposed to do. And I've taken to just often using a wheelchair at this point because over the last few years, there's been such a massive increase in fake service dogs in the airports that people look at me and how I physically present and they don't think of me as somebody who has a disability and needs extra help. So in order to actually get like the support and attention and help that I need, I just take a wheelchair. It's also like crowded at airports and that's usually the most stressful and uncomfortable place for me to try to navigate. So that's what I do. I have no shame in it, especially if I have to run between like catching a flight and there's like 20 minutes to get from one gate to the next. The reality is like I can't just run like most people can run to another gate. So being able to just like be put in a wheelchair and somebody be able to run with me is kind of often the only way we get to the gate on time. That's what I do. So the woman at the airport is pushing me in the wheelchair and she pushes me up to the metal detector, and I fly more with my guide dog than TSA agents see people fly with guide dogs. So usually I get there and they're like, oh, and I'm like, don't worry, here's what we're gonna do. This is what I usually do, but I'm also open to doing it this way. Like I give them their options. I mean, look, it was 5 a.m. This was a very early morning flight and I was PMSing. So I was definitely tired, PMSing. And yeah, I was like not necessarily like in my best mood either, but I get there and I'm like, hey, this is how and they were like, they had no time to hear it. Like she didn't want to hear what I had to say. She was boss. She was going to tell me how it was done, period. And I was like, oh, okay, got it. So what she wanted was for me to walk through the metal detector first, then for me to call Gallop through, and then for my mom to come through. Usually the way we like to do it is my mom goes through, then either she calls Gallop through or I tell Gallop to sit. I hold my hand out, they grab my hand and walk me through, and then I call Gallop through. That's usually how it goes. Then they swab my hands down while my mom's able to go off and get our luggage. They swab my hands down and test it, and they wand Gallop and whatever they want to do, and that's usually how it goes. This time she wanted me to go through first, and ever since this day we are so on top of it, making sure they know that I am blind. Like we say it up, down, and sideways in as many ways as possible. Like Molly is blind, Molly can't see, Molly needs you to be verbal, Molly needs you to grab her hand. Like we get so we say it to them so many times to the point where they're like, yes, we get it, she's blind, okay, got it, because of this experience. So in that way it was a valuable learning lesson for us. But I walked through and I was like right in front of it, so she didn't grab my hand, but I was okay, and I just walked straight. And then I don't exactly remember because it was 2 years ago at this point, but I guess, oh no, she had me go through with Gallop. She wanted me to walk through with Gallop, even though I had told her he will beep because his collar is metal, his leash has metal, his harness is metal. And by the way, TSA rules states that you can't take the harness off or unleash the dog, which is so funny because the amount of times TSA agents ask me to remove remove his collar, leash, and harness. And I'm like, TSA rules state that I'm not allowed to, so I don't know why you as a TSA agent is asking me to do so, but whatever. So I walk through with him, and of course, he beeps, and therefore I'm now gonna be also wanted. Fine. But the best way I can describe this is she starts talking to me in a language I don't know. So imagine you're in an airport and you go through security and there's a problem, and they start speaking to you right up in your face in Japanese, and all you know is English. That's what was happening to me. She was using only visual words. Do this, take that off, touch this, grab that. And she was so up in my face and yelling at me, like, I don't know what she was on this morning, but she was on something. She wasn't even letting me open my mouth to speak, to respond, to be able to say, I don't know what you want me to do. She'd be like, grab that. Grab it. I said, grab it. And I was like, I don't know what you want me to grab. Like, I couldn't even, she wasn't even letting me speak before she just physically grabbed me and like pushed me over to the side and was like, what are you doing? And like getting so up in my face and so mad at me for not doing what she wanted me to do. And I just started sobbing because I felt so cornered. And it's like somebody with a position of power who is using that power to intimidate you in a language you don't understand. I don't understand this, that, over there. Those aren't words that make any sense to me, because that means there's a visual gesture being done. And so my mom is on the other side of the metal detector. She can't get to me because usually if something alarms, they have to test that person and get them through before the next person can go through. So my mom's on the other side and she just sees me crying. She's like, what's wrong? What's wrong? From the other side, and the woman isn't letting her like talk to me or come to me. So my mom eventually got through. I'm just still sobbing because I was so like I said, it was 5 a.m. I was PMSing. This woman's getting up in my face and yelling at me, and I'm feeling so intimidated and scared and uncomfortable. And I'd never in my life had such a negative experience with somebody like mistreating me like that. I don't know. It was so aggressive. And the woman who had been pushing me in the wheelchair, she was like, oh my God, I've never ever seen a TSA agent treat somebody like this, especially somebody with a disability. Like the way she's behaving is so rude and so mean and so inappropriate. And so she took us over to go complain to the head of the TSA. And honestly, he like didn't care. Like he was like, okay. And I was like still crying, and my mom and her are trying to explain like what they saw happen. And the woman in the like pushing the wheelchair who worked at the airport was like trying to explain to guy like this was really inappropriate. This was really, really uncalled for, the way she talked to this girl and treated her. And the guy like just didn't care. He's like, you can file a complaint. And we're like, that's what we're trying to do with you, the head of this department. And yeah, it was just a really overall negative experience. But like I said, we learned a lot from that experience of how I need to communicate with other people my own needs and how to best assist me. And it definitely helped me form better ways to explain myself. And I had had an experience like that once before where I was much younger and I was at a nightclub before I realized how much I hate nightclubs and how unsafe they are as a blind person, because I can't see, I can't hear, and everyone's getting lit. But I was at a nightclub. It was my first ever time ever going to a nightclub, and I was like a little tipsy, and I walk in and the security guard puts his hands up like this, just visually raises his hands in the air as if to show me, raise your hands up so I can pat you down. And I'm just standing there like, and he's like gesturing, and I'm just like, and my friends are like, Molly, put your hands up. And she grabs my hands and puts them in the air, and I was like, oh, thanks. And he starts patting me down, and he's like, she's too drunk to come in. And I was like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm fine. And he was like, no, you're too drunk to come in. You didn't even like, you're not listening to what I'm showing you to do. Like, you're clearly out of it. You're holding onto your friend's arm to stand upright, which was my friend guiding me, giving me sighted guide. And because I obviously wasn't bringing my guide dog or a cane to a nightclub. And I'm trying to explain to him like, no, I'm blind. Oh, and I like handed him my ID like upside down or backwards. So he's like, look, you're clearly too drunk and I'm not gonna let you in. And it was my friend's birthday and I was so upset, and I'm trying to explain to him like, I'm blind, I have this disease. And think like, you're a security guard at a nightclub. This is the most elaborate excuse somebody has ever come up with when you've accused them of being too drunk to get in. I'm blind. But thankfully another security guard who was my friend's cousin, my friend whose birthday it was, her cousin worked as a security guard, and he came up and was like, dude, just let them in. If she causes a problem, we can kick them out. I didn't get kicked out. It was fine. But it was like another instance of somebody using a language that I don't understand. Yes, the words are English, but I don't know what they are. And it's like another situation that taught me how much more preemptive I need to be in telling people when it's necessary or applicable that I can't see. So now every time I'm at a bar, if I hand over my ID, I go, sorry, I'm blind, so I'm not sure if it's the right way. Like I always just say it up front. Or if my friend has to help me find my ID, I'll be like, sorry, I'm blind, so she's just helping me find my my ID in my wallet. Like, I always just up front now, I'm so blatant with it because people are just gonna assume other things and mistreat me and miscommunicate towards me because I don't fit the narrative or the stereotype of what it is to be blind. Anyways, I mean, that's really it. That's the story. That's all. Probably wasn't that interesting, but I thought I'd tell it anyways. If you work at an airport, please do your best to be aware and communicate in a kind manner. I know it's stressful at times. Everybody's job gets stressful at times, especially when you're dealing with people who are traveling and stressed and late for flights and whatever. But if you know somebody who works at an airport in security or anywhere in security, please share this video with them so they can maybe be more aware that we don't all look a certain way just because we're disabled. We don't look a certain way, and to just be more aware with how you communicate with people. So that's all for today. Check out this story time that I recently posted about the time my mom saw me get bullied and this juicy Q&A video. Hit the subscribe button and the bell notification to get notified every single time I upload,